everyone and welcome to another video for the Sweet Stamp Shop. This is Christina and this is my last post for the Sweet Stamp Shop. My term is over and I wanted to say thank you to Nicole and the team because I really had a great time in that team and I learned a lot. And yeah, I'm a little bit sad to go, but there will be new adventures waiting. So let's get to the video. For today's card I would like to use two of the stamp sets. The one on the right is Ahoy and the left one is Happy Birthday. And I'm really in love with the nautical stamp set from this month's release. I'm taking some vellum because I want to show you a technique that I really love, and yeah, you will need some vellum. And then I cut out some waves by hand. Sorry I did this off camera. I thought it was on camera, but it wasn't. So I cut off two pieces of vellum in a wave shape. You can of course use any die that you have, but I just used some scissors to cut a shape that I liked. And then I'm taking my Ranger craft mat, non-stick craft sheet, because I will be doing some coloring with my blending tool. I find that the easiest way to color vellum is with distress inks because they need some time to dry and you have to be careful that you do not get your fingerprints on there. But it dries very smooth and you get a very nice coverage on that. I think this works way better than with Copics because you see all the streaks with the Copics on vellum, and distress inks work very well for this technique. So I used some evergreen bow and also broken china to have different green-blue shades for the waves that we will create. And then I dried that with my heat gun because I will be using some embossing paste on top, and just want to make sure that the ink is dry first because I did not want to smear the ink around or to get it on my fingers, which happened anyway. But yeah, you want to make sure that your ink is dry. I got some new tools that were created to work with paste or acrylic paint, and I really think that these cheap plastic tools work very well. I used a stencil that I created with my silhouette. I cut that out with, yeah, it was just a background pattern and I cut that out. But as you can see, the stencil is not as wide as my card, so what I'm going to do is have a random pattern, not all over the vellum, but just a tiny bit of paste here and there. And as you can see, this tool really helps to get the ink, the paste in just some spots and not all over it. Because if I wanted to have it all over, I would have to line it up exactly and move the stencil and stuff. And now I don't have to care. I don't have to care about lining anything up carefully. I just add some more of that paste. And it looks really nice spread over the vellum. I think white paste on vellum looks really nice. I got a new paste which was quite cheap and I don't think it is as opaque as I like. So maybe I should have bought some Vendi Vecchi or something. I just find it hard to get here in Germany. Now I wanted to dry that with my heat gun, but I know that my cutting mat does not like the heat, so I just put some wood, some cut wood underneath to prevent the heat from warping my cutting mat. And then I dried the embossing paste. And the funny thing with this paste, well, it's actually modeling paste, not embossing paste. The funny thing about this paste is that it does bubble up when you use it with embossing powder, but it does not bubble up when you just dry it with a heat gun like it is. You want to make sure to clean off your stuff right away to make sure that the dried paste does not ruin some of your stuff. It's no problem with this craft sheet, but it may be a problem with your tools or with your stencil, so make sure to clean that right away. Okay, then I found a position for the vellum like I wanted it to be, and I used my tape runner, which is solid clear, and that makes it possible to adhere the vellum right on top of my cardstock without showing through. So this is the easiest way to make sure that no adhesive is showing through. But this does only work if the cardstock that you're going to adhere your vellum to is very light. So otherwise the adhesive will show. But it was not a problem in this case. Okay, then I started stamping, and I started with the Ahoy stamp set. I am really in love with that little sailboat over there with the skull. I think this is pretty cool. And I also wanted to use the Ahoy there matey stamp. So I I mounted both on my acrylic block, stamped them, and then I did some coloring with some markers, and I wanted to have some red to pop off that background. So I used some red markers. These are Delta markers and touchscreen markers. They are way cheaper than Copics, but they do not have a brush tip. So it's not as easy to blend with them, but I think my results show that it is possible. And yes, I like my Copics a lot, but I'm fine with my cheaper markers that I got before I had the Copics. I got the Copics for Christmas. I did not want to pay that much money for some markers. I know they are worth it, but as you can see, the cheap markers work very well as well. Okay, so I added some red, and then I blended some light red or pink in to have some shading. And I used a dark gray color to color the triangle banners. And I did not do any shading on that because the triangles are so small that I thought it was not necessary. And then I also used some gray shades to get some more dimension on the Ahoy There Matey stamp. But I used some browns for the boat because I think this boat must be made of wood. So I used some of my favorite brown shades to get the nice blended wood look. Okay, then onto the gray colors to add some shadows to the Ahoy There Matey and to the skull, which got some gray shading as well. And this is a cold gray. It's actually a blue gray, but it's not. Okay, because this is a cheap marker and it's just some cold gray. And I blended that out with my colorless blender. Then I took my scissors and cut both out, leaving a little white border around them, because I really wanted to make them pop on that white bluish background with the water. And I added some dimension adhesives to put that onto my card. And as you can see, I'm using tiny adhesives because these are the cheapest that I can get, and I love to use them for any shape that do not need a lot of adhesive. I do use my big Scotch tape roll for larger size pieces, or for pieces with a very simple shape. But I think that cutout stamps or stamped images often have a difficult shape to adhere or not as simple. So I think these little squares are just perfect for that. I found the right spacing for my Ahoy There Matey banner. And then I decided to have the happy birthday on the bottom, and I wanted to have one colored strip and do some white embossing. I started with the evergreen bow first because, as you know, I colored one of the pieces of the vellum with the evergreen bow, so I decided to have the same color, but I was not happy how splotchy it looked even after it was dry, so I took some Simon Says Stamp Audrey Blue ink. This is not the same color, but the Simon Says Stamp inks and the Hero Arts inks do dye your paper, and it looks perfectly like you bought the paper in that color, and it does not get splotchy after it's dry. So I preferred the Audrey Blue. I asked in a video some time ago, but I did not get a good answer, so maybe you have an answer. I'm looking for a good dye ink in a color that is close to evergreen bow. As you can see, the first one was splotchy, the second one is not. And I'm totally fine with the blue color because I colored one of the vellum strips with Broken China, and the Audrey Blue and the Broken China are quite close together, so this works. And then I took the happy birthday sentiment that is in the same font because I did not want to distract from the boat and from the beautiful background. And then I stamped that with some Versamark ink and used my Hero Arts white embossing powder, which I love a lot because I think that I really get a good impression and a nice smooth white surface with this embossing powder, and it's really opaque, so you really get a crisp white embossed area. Okay, then I added some Wink of Stella to the top portion of the vellum, but you have to be careful because the Distress ink does react with the Wink of Stella liquid, and yeah, you will see this, but it's no problem. I just wanted to have some shiny looking waves because I think if you look onto the sea. If you're at the seaside and you look to the sea, there's always some shine and the sun gets reflected by the water, so I wanted to mimic that. This is why I added some wing of Stella. And this was the point where I took out my big roll of adhesive, which is from Scotch, because this is such a simple shape. I just adhered that, and to finish off the card I used some glossy accents and added little droplets onto the vellum and onto the happy birthday banner, because I really think a watery card needs some droplets. So this was the last detail that I added, and that finished the card for today. Thank you so much for the last 3 months, for all your lovely comments and your support. This is so much appreciated. I hope you got inspired by my projects, and I know we will meet somewhere on the web. And if you have not subscribed to my YouTube channel yet, please do so. Thanks so much for watching.